All questions used in this forum will be posed to both candidates and will pertain to functions of City Council members as defined by the City Charter of the City of Temple Terrace. At this time, it's my great honor to introduce the moderator for tonight's forum, Dr. Steve Spina.
Thank you, Kevin, and good evening, everyone, to the candidates and residents of Temple Terrace. Before I moved to Zephyr Hills, I did live just down the street from here, though, so it was Tampa, but it was really close. The forum will begin with a 3-minute introduction from each of the candidates, after which a question and answer session of the forum will begin. In alphabetical order, the candidates are Eric Kravitz and Karen K. Mikulski. Eric, we'll start with you, and you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself with the opening statement.
Thank you very much. This is a rare pleasure because usually when I'm talking to people, I'm standing, not sitting, so that's really enjoyable. I appreciate the invitation. It's nice to be able to talk to people face to face. I really believe that the eyes are the window to the soul, and that's why I've been going door to door so much. I'm trying to see everyone and meet them so that they can make up their own minds about me. And that's why you're all here tonight, presumably, or you've already made up your minds. Either way, it's fine. So what brought me to Temple Terrace? It's a very special place. The moment we drove through it, we realized that it was different from everything around it. We really loved the greenery. It was a little oasis. And as a special place, it's very popular, which means that it's growing. And growth doesn't always mean just good things. Sometimes it means problems as well. We have our challenges. Downtown is not living up to its full potential. We have a lot of people who are concerned that the type of development we're getting is not meeting our standards. And I'm sure we'll come to all those topics in the course of the evening. As far as my qualifications are concerned, it's been pleasant to work on city projects for the last 3 years. It's been a pleasure to be in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, where I worked on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, to try and bring more green trees to the city as well, promoting the Adopt a Tree program. I'd like to see more plantings and medians, making sure that we also beautify 56th Street, which is a little bit barren. I also worked on the Maritime Law Enforcement Committee as liaison for Temple Terrace to the Hillsborough County. And in that capacity, I made sure that we kept our police funding that we're getting from boat registration fees, among other things. So it's been a great joy to see some practical, actual outcomes from this work. And that was one of the things that encouraged me to run for city council, as well as the great relationships that I've had in the past couple of years with city council members. Meredith Abel voted to appoint me several times to these committees, which I was very happy about. I was unanimously appointed to most of them. I think there was only one vote where there might have been 1 or 2 people who didn't vote against me way in the beginning, before people knew me very well. And after that, it was smooth sailing. And other than that, I'm sure we'll get to some very substantive topics tonight. I'm sure the questions will be difficult, and I'm sure that everyone will grapple with what it means for the city. I think that we have good prospects. I think we need sound management, just capture the opportunities that are presenting themselves. So it's not a situation that I think is a bad one. I think City Council has done a really good job. I think we need to build on that. We've got the centennial coming up, and I look forward to hopefully being in office to try and make sure that that's a success. And in that capacity, making some good decisions that'll set us up well for the next 100 years, maybe. Who knows? Future is a long time, and it's hard to predict. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Karen, go to you now for your 3-minute introduction.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for this candidate forum and the opportunity to engage with all of you here, and then for anyone who's going to be watching us later on YouTube. And I don't know if we're actually live streaming or not, but if anyone's live streaming, then welcome. So a little bit about me. I am a USF graduate with chemistry and math. And when I was attending USF in the early 2000s, I worked at the Columbia restaurant as a server. And that's really kind of where I started, my services and customer focus is there. And I worked there because I was guaranteed a meal. And when you're a poor college student, man, that was good food. Man, 1905 salad. I had one every day. And I graduated with my chemistry and my math degree. And then I was fortunate to finally land my position as a support chemist. and that was about 2012. And around there, I've been volunteering with Sierra Club as an environmental advocate. This is where I started attending county meetings and learning about government. I attended HEART meetings. I attended, it was MPO, now it's TPO, county commission meetings. And this is where I started voicing our environmental, needs for our community and how I learned about our community and what we need. I didn't know my time. Okay.
Good.
So this is where I started my experience of being of service to our community. And then I was able to save my money, and I wanted to live in Temple Terrace because we have high elevation and trees, but the high elevation and this beautiful city, and I would like the city living instead of being in downtown Tampa. So it took me about a year and a half to find my home in Temple Terrace, and this is my first home that I purchased. Terrazzo floors, absolutely love them. Tree line. Eric and I both are on Deer Park, so we're very fortunate. And I came here to Temple Terrace. In Meredith, Abel, Vice Mayor Abel, contacted me and asked me to if I was interested in running for council because she had an amazing opportunity that was going to take her away. And on this Monday, I said, I'm 85% in. I met the next day with her and Sherry Donahue, and then I was 95% in. And then the next day on Wednesday, I called Meredith and said, okay, what's next? And she goes, are you in? I go, 100%. She's like, all right. And that's what started everything. And I am eager to serve. I love our amazing city.
Thank you very much. How do you promote and support diversity in Temple Terrace? And you'll have 2 minutes this time.
Sure, thanks. So first of all, Temple Terrace is an incredibly diverse community, and I know that because I've talked to thousands of people in my canvassing. I've been to over 5,000 houses, knocked on their doors, and had personal conversations with all manner of people. I've been walking miles and miles and miles in the city, so it's given me a lot of time to think about the problems that we have and the possible solutions. I've spoken French with Haitians, which has been lovely. I've sought the endorsement of the Muslims for Democracy and Fairness. Just had a meeting with them about a week ago. And they're very lovely people as well. And I think the diversity is incredibly important because it makes it such a rich tapestry to live here. You have all manner of food, you have all manner of people, and that's really what America is about too. This is a country that is based on all manner of people coming together from all over the world and finding their common purpose here to pursue their dreams and freedom and prosperity. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things. And if we can represent that here in Temple Terrace, I think that'll be an asset to everyone. So my door is always open. I try to talk to as many people as I can. I've published my personal cell phone number on the internet, on my campaign website. So anyone who wants to get in touch with me can reach me in my pocket any time of day. I do have Do Not Disturb on sometimes at night so I can sleep. But I always welcome people's input, and I've sought out every kind of community that I can find. Even with my limited Spanish, I've had conversations with Cubans, and I've encouraged them to exercise their right to vote, which they don't really have in their own country unless you're voting for you-know-who. So that's really fantastic that we have all of that here in Temple Terrace, and I'd be open to whatever initiatives might come my way on that point.
Thank you very much. Okay, Karen.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How do you promote and support diversity in Temple Terrace?
I think diversity is, we definitely need to support this. And we do have a multicultural city. How I would approach diversity is community engagement. Everyone seeks their information different ways, and we have to find what is best to engage with all of our residents, and then let them know the opportunities of serving on a board or providing input like today's questionnaire at the library so that we can engage with them, whether it might be in a different language, that everyone can learn about our amazing city's services, the opportunities, the recreation center, everything, so that we can provide a service for everyone and all of our residents here.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Karen. While the city provides trees to residents, is there an initiative to plant trees in public spaces, particularly along roadways, to help reduce noise pollution and improve the environment?
That is a great program that we have, Adopt a Tree program. And in order to put trees on a city, on a street, first Temple Terrace has to own it. So if it's a county street or a state street, then we don't have the authorization to do so. We would have to request that, and Mayor Ross does an amazing job representing our needs with the other agencies and cities. That's what would be needed. For our city, for our streets, that would have to be something that, is it feasible? Is it going to cost us money? Meaning, are we going to have to take down a cement? Is it going to affect, the infrastructure of the public works or the sewer or water lines or, even internet lines? So it's not always a simple answer to we want more trees. There has to be research and investigation. And our staff is amazing. And with this, request to the staff, we would easily be able to, this council would be able to decide what is best for our city and our financial growth.
Everyone loves trees, me included. And I'd like to see more of them. When I was in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, one thing that I pushed really hard for and luckily got passed is an encouragement to council to reach out to people who don't have any trees in their front yards to plant them. And we do have a wonderful Adopt a Tree program. One thing I'd like to see the Adopt a Tree program include is more mature trees. If you call them right now, they'll give you a sapling, which is 4 or 5 feet tall. But we have a lot of money in the Adopt a Tree program because we've received millions of dollars from Amazon and other developers who've clear-cut the areas where they've later built their developments. So it is well funded, and I'd like to see us explore maybe asking for more mature trees. As for the medians, we can definitely explore all of those options. I know that there are state roads, county roads, city roads. Let's start with the city roads. I think planting additional trees and medians along city roads is a fantastic first step and one that we really need to do because as someone who walks around town a lot, it really helps when you have a little bit of shade overhead. The temperature's lower, you don't get a sunburn. So I love that. It should be voluntary. I know a lot of people have issues with trees. Many of them have problems with their homeowner's insurance because of trees that they've had. So it, of course, should be voluntary. But the encouragement is there, and I think many people I know plant trees from the Adopt a Tree program. I've run into probably 5 or 6 freshly planted trees just this week south of Bush when I've been walking around, and it's absolutely fantastic to see that. So that would be my approach. Yes to trees, and of course you need a practical, hands-on approach in terms of where they go and how they're cared for so that they have a good future and that they survive and that they don't cause trouble for anyone.
This is our next question, and I'll start with Eric. Would you allow chickens in the city? Please explain.
Bok, bok, bok. I grew up with chickens. My grandfather had chickens, and we always enjoyed the omelets from his eggs. I think when chickens are cared for and they don't have any roosters around, they don't significantly disrupt anyone, really. If they are held in a coop and if they are properly fed, properly maintained, chickens can be a lot of fun. And especially with the price of eggs nowadays, I think buying a chicken for a couple of dollars that is an ongoing concern isn't exactly a bad idea. So I'd be open to it, and I'm also interested in simplifying the municipal code more generally. So perhaps allowing backyard chickens could be wrapped in with a lot of other code simplifications that would make all of our lives easier. For example, being able to build a small shed in your backyard without needing a survey and a permit and architectural draft, being able to repair more than 3 fence panels without getting a permit and a survey. So all of these things are small quality of life improvements that I think we should be looking at. Backyard chickens are really just a part of it. Temple Terrace has a lot of old code provisions that don't really make sense for us anymore. They don't really add any value. We need to be thinking about the code in terms of something that increases our quality of life, that makes our city more attractive and more safe, and that sets us apart a little bit from the surrounding area, which has much looser restrictions. But where should those restrictions be? They shouldn't necessarily target things that don't affect your neighbors and friends. They should be things that affect all of us. So for example, if a yard is unkempt, dirty, then of course that's something that concerns all of us because we're concerned about our property values. But if you have a chicken in your backyard, that might not really affect anyone other than you and maybe your breakfast. So I think that that is definitely something I'd look into. And that's my answer to that.
All right, thank you. Karen?
That is a very interesting question, and I'm not quite sure at this time. I understand why, or as Eric has stated, that it could improve your quality of life. I also would be concerned about the burden, the extra effort placed on, our code enforcement staff, as well as, integrating this into our policy. Someone might think that this would affect their property value. The neighbor might consider it not as same smell as a magnolia tree. So I could see that this would be a great community effort of engagement. Yes, chicken, no chicken. We could come up with some great ideas of marketing it, and this could be our first. How many community responses could we get? Could we hit 50%? Could we hit 25%? I think this might be the topic that gets everyone out and engaged. And that means that's the first step of improving our community and engaging in our city and keeping it great. Voicing your opinions, whether you want to change a different code enforcement policy, whether you think something else should happen, whether you think more services are needed at our library. I think that this might be the first one that gets everyone out and engaged, and it is our first step. Do we want the chickens in our backyard? Do we not?
Okay, the next question, I'll start with Karen. What is the most important social challenge facing the city? What is the most important financial challenge for the city?
So I'm going to go for the second one first, financial challenge. I think our current council, led by Mayor Ross, has done, and City Manager Mr. Baya, has done an amazing job. If anyone of you recently heard during the council meeting, was that I think maybe about 4 years ago, our reserves weren't that well, but they decided to make a goal of, I believe, 20% in reserves of our budget. And I think this past July or August, somewhere around there, they were able to meet that, and they raised it. So under our current council, and the partner, great, amazing communication between Mayor Ross and Mr. Baya, our city manager, and the finance team, finance department has done an amazing job. And so our financial strength, I think, is rock solid. And I think it's going to continue this way and allow us to do the growth and the plans and the development that we want to keep our amazing city. So the next one.
Social challenge.
Social challenges. Social challenges, I would consider involvement. I think a lot of us are still stuck in pandemic mode, that we're not engaged. And when we're not engaged and we don't learn about our community services, we don't know about everything happening here at Lightfoot or at the Recreation Center. We don't get to experience our amazing parks. And being outdoors helps you mentally. It gets you to know your neighbors. You talk to your neighbors. So maybe your neighbor might have not the best backyard, and you might say, hey, I can't help you, but I can put my grandson to work, or I can put my son to work. And I think this helps our community.
All right, thank you. Eric, the same question, but
So I think the biggest social and financial challenge for the city right now is definitely the downtown development. So why is that a social challenge? If it doesn't go well, there's going to be knock-on effects. We have a lot of empties there potentially, might be full of trash, and there might be other issues that arise from the fact that one of the central parts of our city is having struggles. It's a financial challenge because we're very committed to that development, and we need to make sure that it's successful so that we can collect the tax revenues that we're projecting from it. So what do I think about downtown as an issue? There's too much trash there. Many times when I'm there, there are piles of trash around the dumpsters. People are fed up with it. The fountain is a mess, and I have repeatedly mentioned to people that if the developer is not willing to step up, that I think the citizens of Temple Terrace should step in. We could have trash cleanup days there every couple of weeks just to try and keep it tidy. I think it's essential that this development succeed. And I think we need to do everything that we can, even if we have to do it ourselves, to make sure that it is successful. So we've come a long way. You know, as I said, Temple Terrace is very special. It has developed, it has grown. That growth has caused some challenges, but the challenges are part of growing, and it's not a bad thing. But we do have to be aware of the fact that we now have a downtown development that we need to be worried about, which wasn't the case a while ago. And that is, in principle, a positive thing. But it could go either way still. And I think many of you are aware of the issues just from going door to door. I know everyone is aware of the problems there, so I don't need to go into granular detail. But we do need to make sure that it remains presentable. And that also dovetails into the environment, which I'll come back to in another topic momentarily. We need to make sure that the landscaping, that the trees, that the overall presentation of the city is commensurate with our pride in our city. And that is very important in attracting businesses too and solving that problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Eric, I'm going to start with you. Explain your understanding of the official role of a city council member in our city manager form of government.
So the city council is basically the legislative side of the city government. And the city manager is basically the executive. And he handles all the staff. So I sat down with Carlos Bahia, who's our city manager, about a month ago, and we had a very nice chat. And obviously, Dr. Spina and I, we know each other from before, cursorily. So I know that the city manager is an incredibly important part of the city government. And in terms of how things actually get done on the ground, the city manager is your number one point of contact. And he is or she is the individual responsible for all of the functioning of the various departments, and as a liaison between city council and the various departments. So as a legislative organ, the essential thing about city council is that we're responsible for the rules. And one thing that I'm very energized about is going in and looking at all the different rules that we might want to revisit. As I was mentioning earlier, a few of them, backyard chickens are among them. We have a lot of work to do in updating and improving our code. One of the things I'd also like to look at is a townhouse zoning code, because we have developers come in, they present their projects. I think the lot fronts that they propose are too small. We get that quick hit of having a development, but those developments don't always age well. They don't always remain desirable. They don't always remain viable as places for people to live into the future. And I think that our zoning is a very important part of making sure that our city is well planned and functioning well, and that all the neighborhoods can coexist together and prosper. So I'm sure we'll get to that at another question as well.
All right, thank you. Karen?
So the city manager is like the CEO, and the council is, I would say, like your board. In a board of in a large corporation. So the CEO is handling the day-to-day business and assisting preparing all the budgets, the reports, and collating all of that for the council and presenting all of these reports, presenting the status of the city departments and really the city as well to the council. And the council is for strategic planning. It is for budget approval. Fiscal responsibility is the number one job for the council, or maybe a one and one star, along with the maintaining the policies and the agency agreements that we have.
I'll start with you, Karen. Employee health insurance is a continuing issue. This benefit is crucial to attracting and retaining talent to the city. Would you support increasing the employee flex dollar amount? Would you support restructuring flex dollars to better assist family coverage?
That is a great question, and it's a personal question to any working person with either by themselves or with the family. Health insurance is a necessity. Otherwise, it will even with insurance in the USA, health costs can be tremendous, and it can greatly impact your weekly budget, your monthly budget. So I think that I would request, if I was on council, I would request a review of it, and also looking at the different programs, the different insurance options that are out there. If it's going to benefit, and it would be a cost-benefit analysis that I would request, and then also poll all of the employees. Is this really best for the employees, having a flex savings account, or would it be better switching to a different structure of health insurance? This isn't my forte, so I would request for staff assistance and reports.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, so I'm going to take that question in a slightly different direction. Let's talk about employee pay in general. So our firefighters, for example, they could earn more money in other counties or in other cities. So they're basically taking a pay cut to work here. And I think that's something that probably is the case for many of our departments. I think a lot of the employees who work here do so out of a sense of the sincere motivation that they have to do a really wonderful job for the people who live here. And also because maybe working for Temple Terrace city government offers a little bit extra quality of life. So the important thing when it comes to employee pay is that it's competitive, because it has to make sense for both people. And as long as we are able to staff all of our departments, and as long as that's not leading to a sense of resentment because people are working for too little money and making a sacrifice, then I think we're on the right path. But the other important thing to always bear in mind is that being on the right path is not getting to the destination. And the destination should definitely be that our city employees are rewarded commensurately for the work that they do and our great esteem that we have for them. So I would definitely want to look at the compensation that we offer. We don't have unlimited funds, and I've also made a commitment that we're not going to raise residential property taxes. I've also been endorsed by the firefighters, for which I'm very grateful. And so looking at all of these competing elements and trying to piece them together so they make a cohesive whole, that's the most important thing. And when it comes to employee pay, we should really pay what we can, because they will do for us everything that they can, and they do on a regular basis. As we just saw with the hurricane, the cleanup, often there are extra hours, it's difficult work, sometimes it's dangerous work, sometimes lives are even on the line. And so we need to make sure that we take care of the people who take care of us.
Thank you. Okay, Eric. Would you support initiatives that would increase walkability and safety for bikes? And if so, what examples would you like to see implemented in the city?
I helped draft the pedestrian and bicycle master plan on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and we passed that up to City Council, and I believe Andy and all the other council members were impressed with it enough to pass it. So we now have a comprehensive plan for our bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, which is very exciting. Absolutely, I support it. I think it's incredibly important that Temple Terrace remain walkable. And I think our cyclists are honestly often at risk when they're in town. Temple Terrace is a very safe place to bike, very safe place to walk, but it could be safer. And I personally know of one individual who was actually killed about 1.5 years ago by a car, and he was a routine cyclist. It went around Bonnie Brae Park, and one day I never saw him anymore, and I found out months later that he had actually been killed by a car. So it does happen in Temple Terrace, and obviously even that one time is too many. So whatever we can do to address that is very important. And the other side of that issue, which I'd also like to spend just a second talking about, is speed and traffic enforcement. Many people agree, and I do too, that cars go too fast down major roads: Druid Hills, Ridgedale, Whiteway, Sunnyside, River Hills. All of these streets are hotspots. Cars are going 15 over sometimes. We should have more traffic enforcement. We should try to slow things down, because the faster a car is going, the greater the risk to everyone, and also the more nuisance to residents. And it also places more of a burden on our streets, which aren't always that well conditioned. So the slower cars are going, the less wear and tear we have on Barthow roads and on the people that use them. So I'm certainly in favor of that. I think we need to be very cautious about how we handle our traffic, and it could easily get out of hand. So we need to keep our reputation as being a strict speed enforcement city.
Thank you. Karen? Would you support initiatives that would increase walkability and safety for bikes? And if so, what examples would you like to see implemented in the city?
That's a great question. Yes, I think that I came to Temple Terrace as really for the walkability. I'm on Deer Park. I'm on the second block, and right at the end is a bus stop. That's great walkability if I needed to go downtown and have some alcoholic beverages and be safe coming back. And that's great walkability. I think as we are the vision and the strategic planning for the downtown of connecting from the river and the park and coming up Sunnyside and then going, we need to have that for walkability and also the safety for all ages, whether you're 2 years old or whether you're 100 years old. Safety and walkability, as well as bicycling, especially we have this beautiful tree canopy, is needed. So what would be the initiatives that I would like to see? I think really it pairs with respecting our community and our neighbors. Eric just mentioned speeding. Yes, where I'm on Deer Park, speeding happens. But it is a choice. It's a choice to speed through your neighborhood. It's a behavioral. I don't think we need more enforcement. I just think that we need to have more of a community respect and getting together and knowing your neighbors and understanding the impact. Is it really worth 30 seconds to get to 56 faster? Is that going to help you in traffic? And I think we just need to slow down and start enjoying our tree canopy and make things safer.
Thank you. We're getting some good questions here. Karen, this is for you. We've been seeing a lot of work on water lines in our neighborhood. Do you have a plan for our aging infrastructure?
That's a great question. I don't have a plan on the aging infrastructure, but I know that our council has been working on it, and I believe we received some federal grants that were recently passed for water for the infrastructure. I think I read on Druid Hills maybe, but I believe that our council, and because of our city manager who is managing and working with the Public Works and all of the departments, they are aware of these issues. It is being brought to the budget and the planning, and then the council is then deciding. So although I don't have a plan for this, I'm not a infrastructure person. If it was a chemistry question, I could get that. But I trust in our staff and in our departments and in our city manager to bring this information and the urgency behind it so that the council can make these decisions and strategically plan for it. And we are in this great situation because of our current council and the city manager, as I said before, and Mayor Ross, because we have a strong financial, so we can start making these decisions. And what's important about having this financial strength, if I could go off topic, is because we can get these grants, which is how we are paying for some of these projects right now.
Thank you very much. Eric?
Yeah, infrastructure is a really tough topic. So the cost of road paving has gone way up, and obviously we were just talking about employee pay, and now it would be nice to pay everyone a little bit more. There are a lot of financial pressures on that the city faces. We did get about $8 or $9 million of ARPA funds for stormwater abatement. As far as I'm aware, most of that money is in the process of being committed. So that's going to move along, but obviously those federal funds are purpose linked to specific improvements that the federal legislation stipulates. Now, when it comes to the infrastructure that everyone uses day to day, most people think of roads. The cost of asphalt moves roughly in line with the cost of oil because asphalt is oil-based. It's possible that if oil prices come down, that asphalt will become cheaper again. Right now, it's a bit of a struggle to hit our targets. Staff is doing the best they can, of course, but the financial burden on the city is greater than it used to be in terms of providing everyone the infrastructure that they certainly deserve. If it becomes necessary to raise more funds for infrastructure investments, what I would like to see is City Council put that on the ballot so that people can vote on it in 2 years and see if they want to spend more money to improve the infrastructure in Temple Terrace. And that way they'll have a debate about it. They'll see what the proposed tax is, and they'll get to say yes or no to it. And I think that's really important, that everyone is in the clear about where that money is going and why it needs to be spent and why it needs to be raised. So I think that's my approach to that topic. Obviously, everyone wants the best infrastructure possible, but everyone also has their own opinion about how that can be paid for. And I think that's a debate that we all need to have when it becomes relevant, if it becomes relevant.
Thank you. Okay, Eric, we'll start with you. How long have you lived in the city, and what are a few things that you wish the city would have done to improve but hasn't yet?
So I lived here 3 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Sometimes I run into people who've lived here their whole lives, or 30 years, or 20 years, and I'm always a little bit envious of them because it's such a great place. And I never thought I'd be able to be in a place like this, actually. And it was a lot easier than I thought, which is surprising. I just didn't know about it. As for what the city could do, yeah, the rec center is very great, and we absolutely love it. We go there all the time. Supporting the rec center is very important, in my opinion. The city offers a ton of amenities. We like the library. We like how close the voting is to our house. The trees are an amazing amenity, as are the parks. I think the environment also really plays into the development of businesses in Temple Terrace and the overall quality of life. The fact that so many families can take their children to parks, not have to worry about them. I just actually spoke to a lady today, and she said that she doesn't have any kids, but she knows people who do have children, and they have 3 parks to pick from, just in the small area that they live in, and they go to all 3 of them. So the city does a lot. The city really offers a ton of wonderful facilities and really excellent amenities for the people who live here, and I'd certainly like to see that continue. There are some pain points, like the roads. Shout out to everyone who lives on St. Augustine. That road is hopefully going to get paved soon. So we're working on that. If anyone has any pain points that they'd like to share, you can go on my website and you can call me or you can email me, and I'll be happy to look into it anytime.
Thank you. Karen?
I wrote this question down, so I got it. So I moved to Temple Terrace 3 years ago, same as Eric. It took me a while to find the house, but I was happy to move in here. And I think the city is doing great. There's great services. I think the question was, what has the city not done? I would say this, as a new resident coming in, a welcome package of some sort would be great. And why would a welcome package be nice? I don't know how it would be delivered, but if we kind of go down this path. So you would learn about code enforcement, so then you wouldn't get surprised. You would learn about all these services. You would learn about the golf course and that there's a social membership available, or there's a golf course membership available, and it's not private. You can go, or you could join. You could learn about the rec center. You could learn about the library and all of the library services. And I think that this welcome package welcomes you, and you start to becoming an active Temple Terrace resident. So you start to know your neighbors. And as we get engagement, our city you're going to enjoy your city more. I mean, we all moved here for a reason. And now you're going to make sure that it's going in the direction that you want it to go into. You're going to keep this forward momentum with the council and with the staff, and realize that change doesn't happen overnight in government. It's a long process. So we have to kind of all work together and be that turtle or the snail and keep going on this forward momentum.
Thank you. All right, Karen.
All right.
What is the goal for your term on City Council in terms of progress for citizen engagement and cohesiveness?
Oh, I think this is a great question. So, as you probably have heard, and I'm all about engagement, and probably this happened becoming an advocate and, my volunteer time with Sierra Club, is because engagement is everything. Community input is needed. Everyone, when you're canvassing, you knock on a door, people tell you what they think, but they don't always make it to an email, make it to a phone call. Some do, some don't. But everybody wants to be asked, and they want their voice to be known. And they want to have that value. Everybody wants to have value. So my thing for the community engagement is really a big thing. It starts with communication. Some people do Instagram, some people do Facebook, some people do email, some people do text. How can we possibly come up with something so that everyone can be happy? Maybe not everybody, but you should at least be able to, I shouldn't say that. Of course, everybody can be happy, 100%. So, but finding a middle ground and finding a way to have that. And the second part, I think, was
in terms of progress for citizen engagement and cohesiveness.
So cohesiveness means to me is we are all one big city, and we all want to be going positively forward. We all want the good development. We all want to have the great streets. And what does that mean? It means collaboration. It means creative thinking, and it means respect. And that is what we need. The council needs it, and we need it as neighborly needs it, if that's kind of a word. But,
Thank you very much. Eric?
I'm a result of that engagement. I've got my start here in advisory committees, and very grateful for City Council back then in appointing me and giving me a chance to participate. And I think the other wonderful thing that Temple Terrace offers is a lot of the community facilities that it has, and also the golf course. Many of these things are places where everyone gets together and they see each other and they chat, and that's incredibly important. That's a way that the community can retain its cohesion, and whatever we can do to support those things, whatever we can do to move that forward and make sure that everyone is able to have places where they can go and meet other people and see face to face who they are, what they're dealing with. It's wonderful. And other than that, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
All right, Eric. Would you support initiatives to increase the density of buildings and incorporate mixed-use spaces, residential and commercial, in order to promote a more walkable and livable city?
So when it comes to housing, zoning, density, it's not so much a question of if, it's a question of where. So all of these zoning types make sense, but it depends on where you put them, whether they make sense. When you look at mixed use, to me, it makes sense along major traffic corridors. Bush, 56th, downtown Temple Terrace is a perfect example where you could put mixed use. I believe that was actually part of the plan once upon a time, but the developer didn't want to go that direction. He just wanted to have retail. So that's what the city went with. In terms of how zoning works in the overall strategic picture of our city, Temple Terrace is largely built. There are some parcels that are not built on, but we have a lot of beautiful established neighborhoods. And of course, we also have the golf course, and that is a big green space that we're never going to build on. So we need to make sure that we're protecting the established neighborhoods that we have, that we don't sacrifice those by putting incredibly dense developments right in the middle of them, I can give one example, just very briefly, because I've only got a couple seconds left. Davis Road. This was a development where there were originally 40-foot lot fronts. These were so small that there was not going to be any greenery, no green space. It was an environmentally bad move. You can't plant any trees on a 40-foot lot front. There were not going to be any amenities for the people who live there. And I lobbied city council. I spoke to several of the council members, and I asked them if they couldn't possibly increase it to 60 feet. And ultimately, that is what happened, not necessarily because of my lobbying, but I think the lobbying was definitely in the right spirit. And as long as we can make sure that the development is high quality and has a future and will remain viable going into the next 10, 15, 20 years, we're good.
All right, thank you. Darren? Would you support initiatives to increase the density of buildings and incorporate mixed-use spaces, residential and commercial, in order to promote a more walkable and livable city?
So that's a great question. And I many a times, this is really my area of being environmental advocate. So there's multiple approaches to this. If downtown Tampa, yes, you want high density there because you have a great grid system and it is designed for that. Our downtown Temple Terrace, we have the apartment complex that just was recently built. To put another 8-story, 4-story, a couple out, I just don't think that it quite fits right now. To me, I don't see that. And I see that we are a residential and our comprehensive plan and density is set. I'm on a 1/4 acre. I would not want, and I don't think it would fit compatibility if you're looking at the comprehensive plan. If 2 homes were purchased side by side, those 2 homes were knocked down, and then you put up townhomes. That's not going to fit in our neighborhood because of how our zoning and how the comprehensive plan is. We have this amazing city because of the comprehensive plan. I think that the development in the how it currently is and the comprehensive plan and the definitions of the zoning at this time fit our needs. So I wouldn't change it at this time. Again, this is just based on a peripheral. I have not researched it. So of course, further research from the staff, further what is our limitations because we have to follow county and then of course state, but the staff coming back, I definitely would take their lead on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this will be our last question of the night. And I'll start with Karen. What role does the city play in the golf course's future? Should it remain a golf course?
Oh, that's a great question. The golf course. The golf course is going to remain in our future. It is one of our assets. It's on the historical registry, and it is a part of our, it's a beauty of our city. It is.
Can you repeat that question one more time?
What role does the city play in the golf course's future? Should it remain a golf course?
Okay, so I'm going to say that it has to remain a golf course based on my knowledge of how the contract or the history of that is. And I'm going to say that the city's responsibility is that it is owned by the city and they would continue supporting the golf course. So my understanding is that the golf course is, agreeing, they are in communication with the council. They are making their payments if we're going to get into the specifics. And I think that the city, it's a partnership. And the city is going, I'm saying the city and the golf course are as one. They're going to go together. Temple Terrace is always going to be here. The golf course is always going to be here. I see that the two futures are together. And I think that this is a great asset. It should be promoted. We should become a destination city, and I think this is a great asset to promote.
Thank you. Eric?
So I'm a big supporter of the golf course. I absolutely wish them the best. They do have a couple of challenges. They do have a loan outstanding with the city. It's been a bit hit or miss with the payments, but they're on the right course right now, and we definitely want that to continue. One area that I'd like to see a little bit more cooperation with the golf course is in replacing the dead trees that are on it. I think we have the Adopt a Tree program, and I think that it might be interesting looking at how we might incorporate the golf course into that. And even, as I was mentioning before, we have some of those slightly more mature trees potentially that we would be able to plant there. And I think that would be a wonderful amenity for everyone that lives here. And it might also be a way of supporting the golf course where we all benefit from it because we love our canopy. So I wish the golf course the best, and I want them to succeed. Absolutely, they're on the register of National Historic Places. I think that's fantastic, and they're an asset for Temple Terrace. But it's not all smooth sailing, but it definitely is getting there, and I think that's wonderful. We need to build on that, make sure that continues. Other than that, I hope that we have the golf course for a long time. I know many people who like playing golf. I personally don't play golf, but I always look at the people who are, and they bring me great joy. I always am amused when they hit or miss a ball, and sometimes they, you hear the echoes of profanity in the middle of Temple Terrace, and it's always very amusing. And I hope they all hit par and do well. And other than that, I go to the golf course every now and then to eat. And I have a club meeting that I go to once a month at the golf course. So I'm very grateful that they're there and that they are willing to host us. So shout out to all the golf course members. Keep up the good work, and please don't fail.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll let you have, each one of you have a 3-minute closing statement, and I'll start with Eric.
Just slide right into that. Yeah, well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for coming out, and thank you to everyone listening from home. You're kind of an extension of this room when you're watching on YouTube, and I hope you feel like you're here because for all I know, I've already met you. And it's been really wonderful meeting so many people in Temple Terrace. I tell folks that about 1 out of every 300 people that I run into is not very nice. But that leaves 299 people who are very nice. And they'll give you a fair shake. They'll listen to you. And of course, also, what's even more important, I get a chance to listen to them. And the issues that are really important to Temple Terrace, the downtown development, roads and traffic safety, keeping our city green and beautiful with a good and healthy environment. Those are all things that are near and dear to my heart. Also, of course, some of the fiscal things. I don't want to burden anyone with new taxes. And of course, I also look at code reform, making things that are a little simpler, permits, and enforcement a little bit more easygoing so that we can focus on the things that really add value to our community. That's a way of lowering the cost of home ownership, where you can take a $700 or $800 fence repair currently and make it into maybe a $100 fence repair. You don't have to go to the permit office. You just have to go to Home Depot. So I think that's really important. I think all these things are at the top of everyone's mind, and I'm energized to get to work on those. So you'll see me out in the next few months, well, at least until November 5th, and after that, probably too. I don't plan to stop engaging with everyone afterwards, hopefully. And I'll certainly remain on the city committees that I'm on, regardless of whether I win or lose the election. And I look forward to continuing to contribute in my small way to the success of Temple Terrace. And believe me, that's very important because just like you, I live here.
All right, thank you. Karen?
All right, thank you so much for this opportunity and for listening. So I think I didn't answer one question, and that was about what walkable initiatives. And so I'm going to take a few moments. I think it would be a great walkable initiative, which would also help our city, would be maybe like make some trails or make some like paths in a little map and point out our historical markers or maybe even historical homes. And I think that would be a great initiative to, and kind of, get people outside and to make people aware. Because I think if you walk, maybe you might slow down driving, and then the slow driving is going to help everybody. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and I would like you to take this away from me. I would like for you to take this away from this engagement. is I'm a hardworking, I'm dedicated, and I love learning. I enjoy reading policy. I enjoy all the boring kind of mundane that some people think, and I think it's exciting. And I want to keep Temple Terrace moving forward, and I think different ideas and perspectives are great. For example, I think in our mission statement, it talks about live here. You know, we want to have a great excellence in our live, play, work, and learn. And that's schools. No one had a question about schools. And I think that's an important part of growing Temple Terrace. So going back, I believe I'm qualified because of being an advocate. And this is a continuation, you know, being, I say, on this side of the podium, to serve. And I enjoy this. I do. And the next would be, I believe I'm qualified because of my knowledge, because I'm dedicated and I want to learn, and because I really want engagement. And I think engagement starts with communication, and I will work for communication. And when you have the engagement, it provides representation. And I want to seek representation for everybody so that we all feel we're part of our community and our city. And I have endorsements because I have been an advocate. So I have endorsements from Hillsborough County Commissioner Pat Kemp, former Commissioner Mariella Smith. They both were with Sierra Club. Vice Mayor Meredith Abel, and former council member Sherry Donahue. And these are important, I'm almost done, because they understand that I can do the job and I'm dedicated and I want to serve. And I really thank everyone. If you'd like to learn more about me.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to thank the candidates. I appreciate you being here. I know what it's like to sit in your seats there, and it can be stressful, and I think you did a good job. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I'd like to remind you that a recording of this event will be available on the city's YouTube channel. I'd also like to remind everybody to please vote in the general election on November 5th. If you would like to vote early voting runs from October 21st through November 3rd at the Temple Terrace Library. And the deadline to register to vote is October 7th, this coming Monday. So thank you very much.